Hey guys, so last week I talked about starting a special effects makeup kit, and I thought I'd go over one of the products this week and start to really kind of show you guys how to use the products that I mentioned. So today I want to talk about scar wax. Now, scar wax has been used for very long periods of time. They even started using this in the Renaissance period during to do exactly what I'm going to show you how you're going to create wounds. So this has been done for long periods of time. Now there are cons to using wax, and these are, if you use scar wax, it is something, I will show some pictures of some looks that I did with just scar wax, especially when I'm just starting out. So I will insert those right now. Okay, so those were pretty decent looks, right? And all I really had at the time was scar wax and some cream makeup. So you can create some really great stuff, but it is very temporary. You could tell by my Reagan makeup that it was, worn by the end of the night. And that's the thing with wax. It's not meant for long periods of time, for hours on end, okay? It will eventually, from the heat of the skin, even if you seal it, you can accidentally, bump it, or someone, bump into you, and that can distort what you created already. So there are cons to using wax. And again, the cons to using wax is it's a temporary look. It's not going to last long. The wax is very sticky, and so the more that you play with it, the worse it gets. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. So the pros are, it is really easy to get in most countries. It is very cheap. You can get, like this tub is 2 ounces, and I paid about $3 for this. So it's very cheap to get. Almost anyone can get it. It's an easy learning curve once you know the tips of not handling it as much. But again, the downside is if you want even though it's sticky, right? It does need an adhesive to stay onto the skin, especially for a longer period of time if you're not just doing it for social media, which begs the differ of why you're seeing a lot of scar wax recently on social medias, whether it is Instagram or YouTube or whatever. It's kind of had a resurgence with people, and because it is so readily available, because it's easy to get a hold of almost anywhere, it's cheap, and it is very good for temporary. You can put this on, create a look, and there's really nothing to remove it. It's really easy to remove, and it doesn't have to last that long, but it will look very good. And this is also a lot cheaper than silicones and latex and stuff like that. So again, that's another pro to this, that everyone can get it. It's cheap and readily available to most. So I will be inserting, hopefully it works out, a video of me actually up close working with the scar wax, because even though I did a little demo on my face, it wasn't up close, and I'd like you guys to see what I'm doing, and what I'm really kind of talking about. But again, where I'm doing the wound on my face, I didn't even use an adhesive because I just right off. So there you go. So that is scar wax in a nutshell, and I will leave links to everything that I recommend in the box of knowledge. any questions you have, please leave down below and I will get to them as soon as possible. So enjoy the little video and I will see you guys next week. All right. Bye, guys. Okay. Now, the less you touch it, the better. This is really hard to do in a viewfinder, but you want to get the edges. And when you're working with a tool here, the less product, so like it's going to stick to what it's going to stick to, and Vaseline does help, but you don't want to put a whole lot of Vaseline on. If you put too much Vaseline, it will get very lumpy and separate, and that is why you're putting way too much petroleum jelly in it or handling it too much. So okay, there we go. So I love taking the edge of the spatula and just creating here we go, by pulling down. Okay. Now, oops. You can do let's do something like that. All right. Now, shut. Again, I'm going to do a close-up, and this is just kind of talking through, hey, don't touch it as much. Spatula comes in really handy. You want to add a little texture around it, just because wax is very smooth. You put that on your face, and it's not going to match the texture of skin. So you do want to take, whether it's a stippling brush, something with texture, a sea sponge. This is a regular household one that has some texture, and you just want to put some texture back into the wax so it's not so, okay, and you can't see that, but again, so we got a little wound thing happening there. I'll open up a little more here. And wounds are not even, so you don't have to create it even. All right, I'm going to grab some petroleum jelly, get some on my fingers. I noticed the whole time, even, you know, on my spatula, there was a little bit of petroleum jelly, but not a whole lot. And what you want to do is just take it and you can really feather those edges out. And again, not a lot. Okay. So, cleaning as we go. Now, at this point, you can choose to just put some blood into the wound and you know, you'd be pretty decent. You're going to wipe your, if you had a wound on here, you touch it, you wipe it, and there'd be blood everywhere, right? So we can, let's do this. I'm going to take, just put a little bit of makeup in it, and then we'll put some blood in it, and then we'll have a, we need, I do need a brush. I'm just going to put a little bit of color in here. And there we go. Again, I run really warm, so wax on me does not last long at all. There we go. Okay. So we got a little cut going on there, right? And you can get as there we go. It's a pretty cool cut, right? Make it a little deeper over here. Okay. So got a cut. And again, you know, on camera, there's very little blending that really kind of needs to happen. And again, techniques like this have been around for a long time. They've been doing this since the Renaissance. Anyway, so got some wax things happening here. And you can take some blood. You can choose to use stage blood, which remains runny, or some thick blood or gel blood or scab blood, which is always really nice because then you have a bit of a wound filler. Let's see here. This probably going to do stage blood just because that's not a big cut. I'd rather do a big one and fill it. So, but that is an option. And let's get some blood. Let's get a oh, of course. This one's not opened. All right, let me go grab some blood. All right. Whoops. Let's get some blood in there. All right. So you have a pretty, and let's say, I mean, here you're going to be touching your face if you have a wound, right? So you're going to have some spots that you're going to be touching. Okay, so that was interruption. So that escalated quickly. So again, this is a scar wax wound. And again, I will show up close view so you guys can really kind of get and see edges and all that stuff. But it's really quick. Now, again, this is already hasn't been on too long, and scar wax does not go well on, a lot of people like putting it on the mouth. Any mobile area, it is not going to last hardly at all. You know, although my cheek is moving, it's not a, oh, the phone's going to ring again. Are you kidding me? Hang on, guys. This is filming. I'll be right back. Okay, let's try this again, and hopefully I'm not as popular and the phone won't ring again. I apologize. So, again, where was I? Thoughts, where am I? Okay, so I forgot what I talked about, so if I repeat it, I apologize. So anyway, scar wax does not do well in highly mobile areas. Anywhere talking, like, you know, a lot of people like to do the Chelsea smiles, and that is not going to last hardly at all. Again, if you run, your body temperature runs really hot, you're not going to, it's not going to last a long time. But they are very effective at doing shoots, temporary things, and it escalates really quickly. You can get this done really fast. You can make your own scar wax. I will include a recipe down below, but you can kind of see, this is, you know, the closer I get, you can kind of see it's starting to break down a little bit. But again, don't put it in a highly mobile area, like your mouth, because it will crack, it will come up, even if you have an adhesive, it just from the movement itself is going to come off. So, but it's a good thing to learn. And again, it's something that is very readily available to most people. So anyway, now that I look like a hot mess, I am, let's see, did I cover everything? I believe so. All the pros and cons. And again, the less you touch it, the better. That's why I always recommend using a spatula and touch it less. And the more it will last. The less you touch it, the less you fiddle with it, the longer it will last. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. And I will insert an actual video up close so you guys can see the nitty-gritty, and links to everything always in the box of knowledge. If you have any questions, leave them down below. All right. I will talk to you guys later, and I hope you having a great week wherever you are. Have a good one. Bye. Okay, so I forget what I was talking about because the phone has rung so many times when shooting this. So let me just go over. You saw me apply this. It didn't take a long time at all, and you need very few things. You know, I didn't really put a whole lot of makeup on, so you don't really have to. Super easy to do once you kind of know some tips to not fiddle with it as much. So let me go over the things that you need, because I don't even think I mentioned that. Petroleum jelly. If you want blood, very optional, but does help, is, well, the scar wax, some type of cream makeup, which I did use, but again, this you don't really have to. If you make the wound and put a little blood on it, it really is not that bad at all. For sealing it, a sealer, a adhesive, and some other tools, brushes and sponges, and that's about it. A little bit of powder to take the shine away. So these are very minimal things that you need to do a look. And again, you can get by with the bare minimum of, you know, like this one, I didn't use the adhesive. Now it will eventually come off because I don't have the adhesive. But if you are just going to take a picture, you don't have to do the adhesive. It is staying pretty decent, right? But definitely the most, at the very most, wax, blood, and petroleum jelly. That's kind of all you need. And if you are doing this from afar, you really don't need to do a whole lot of makeup. These are the three things that you would need. So hope you guys have enjoyed that. I hope it's been informative. And get out and, I was going to say, get out and bash yourself up, but don't do it. Have fun with it. This is what special effects is so much fun to work with. It's my favorite, and you know, you're left with your imagination and some tools, and some pretty magical things can happen. So especially with such little things. I mean, my cheek doesn't look the very best right now, but hey. So again, I hope you guys are doing well wherever you are in the world, and I hope you have an amazing weekend. All right. Bye, guys. Okay, so these are the things that you will need. All right. You'll need some powder, some wipes, petroleum jelly, some scar wax, optional makeup, a sealer, an adhesive, brush, blood of course, and a spatula. Okay, so I'm going to take some spirit gum and I'm going to put it, let's see if I can do this here, move this way. Alright, let's remove my watch. You will see a massive tan line. Alright, so spirit gum, which does need a remover, and I'm just going to do, it does not need to be a big thick mass. Alright, I'm going to do little tails on the end. Alright. Now, spirit gum does need a remover afterwards, so remember this. It is an adhesive that you do need to get tacky. Most people do this, they tap on it and it will become really stringy. You'll start to see, I don't know if you can see, you can even start to hear the difference. But you can start to see stringy little bits. Okay? And that's when you know it's ready. Now, like I said, scar wax is fiddly. All right? The more you touch it, the worse it is to deal with. So, I'm going to grab some scar wax here. I want to grab it with my spatula. I want to grab a good, decent amount here. Okay. Put the rest aside. Now, if you're doing like just a cut across, you want to do this in a little snake motion, I'm just going to plop this down. All right. Now, this is where a spatula comes in really handy, because where I've said, if you, the more you mess with this, the worse it is. All right. The stickier it gets. So a spatula, and keeping your spatula clean helps as well. So the less wax that's actually on your spatula, the better. Now that I've anchored it down, you want to just go and I'm going to put a tiny little amount of petroleum jelly on my spatula, and I mean tiny. I'm not trying to change the texture of the wax. I am just trying to make it so it won't stick as much. Alright, so we got our hand here, and we are going to start to take the wax, and again, you can redistribute certain ones. Now remember, wounds are not, they're not symmetrical, right? So I love spatulas because you can take the excess, number one, off, but you can get a really decent edge. So start on the edging first, pull some away, pull down. You see that? So pulling
down and out. And you see how it gets rid of that big edge? So that's kind of what I'm doing right there. All right, and removing the excess. There's a lot of excess right, oops, you can't see that, right here. Smooth it out there. I'm going to put a good chunk of it right on the side here. Now, cleaning up my spatula. All right, I want to get a good, this is why I like this spatula. This has the triangle end, and it's really good for just getting in there. And again, wounds aren't, you can make it look more chunkier, right? All right. So once you kind of figure out the wound that you want, you can go mess this with the edges some more. And then what I like to do is clean up the around where the wax is, because that's a dead giveaway when people leave the excess, right? People leave the excess, it just doesn't look right. And it doesn't need to be perfect. Okay, so I've cleaned it up quite a bit. Get rid of all that excess down below here. So it's looking pretty good and beefy, and you know, at this point, I'm going to tell you to touch the wax. Get a little petroleum jelly on your finger, and you're going to want to go on the little edges to feather around your areas here. And don't use too much petroleum jelly. When people do this, they use way too much, and then it gets really chunky really quick, and then they can't figure out why their wax went and separated. It's because you put too much petroleum jelly and you're touching it too much. Okay, so that looks pretty good, right? Or maybe you want to open this more, actually. So, and that's the good thing about wax, is you got a lot of good working time here. You don't have to, you know, worry about silicone drying or anything like that. Okay, so I like that. I think it looks pretty decent. Okay. And I want to give this part a little texture. All right, so we got our little wound, right? Now, what we do need to do is wax does not, I'm getting my own shadow, okay. So wax, learning with me, does not have the texture of skin. It is very smooth in texture and shiny, right? So what we want to do is kind of put texture back into it. And what I mean by that is if you take a sponge or stipple with a brush around the edges just to give it a little skin texture, so it's not so much just completely from the skin to instant smoothness. That's a dead giveaway for any type of makeup, right? So we want to do that, and be careful because you can misshape your wax, but try to, you know, simulate some pores there, some skin texture. Good. All right, so we got that. Now I'm gonna give it a little powder just to take away a little bit of the pain in my skin. Powder brush. Okay. And be gentle. You don't want to wreck what you just did, right? Okay. So powdering it helped a lot. Now, what we want to do is to seal this wound, right? You want it to last a little bit long. Now, this is what this is. This was actually created for wax. This is Fixin' A. And you just, with this, all you do is, after you've done your wax, you apply a thin film over your wax and allow it to dry. All right, so let's do that. And I always shake this up. And it comes with its little brush. Okay. So we are sealing the appliance. Get around the edges, don't forget around the edges. Okay. And it dries fairly quick, very quickly. All right. Put that away. And again, you can do this with popsicle sticks. You don't need the thing. Now, while that's drying, I'm going to start to put some of the stuff away that I don't need. Like, we don't need the petroleum jelly anymore. I always clean as I go. And this is almost dry, so that doesn't take a whole lot of time for it to do it. As you can see, it's still going to be a little wet, right? Now, again, with modeling wax, if you bump this, even though you sealed it, it can disform. It's wax. It's pliable. So again, this doesn't work well in a lot of high mobile areas like the mouth. So we could come in here, and since I did it let's do some of this and some of this, and I'm just going to grab some of my and that is almost completely dried. So now at this point, I'm going to get a little bit of a sponge. I'm going to grab some foundation, and because this is a bit lighter than my skin, I'm going to try really hard not to disturb the makeup, but try and blend it with my own. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You're going to be doing other makeup on it, right? And let's get a little bit of... The magic of makeup is, you know, you can create so many things with so little. All right, now I have quite a bit of red in my skin. So we are going to grab the slightest, and I mean the slightest, little bit of red. Okay. Now, we can start by doing some really deep you know, and it doesn't have to be, nothing has to be perfect here, right? So let's see, we'll get that out of there so I can have my hand there. Let's Whoops. Dark red. Right. You can do it as nasty as you want. Okay. Now I'm going to try and, there we go. So, get a little irritated around it. A little more red here. So now you're starting to get, you know, get into the bits here. All right. Now you want to take it a step further, as most people normally do, and I don't blame them, right? This is the fun part of doing makeup, is creating, having fun with it, and why not? I'm gonna throw that out. All right. We are going to add some blood, and I'm going to try and find my thick blood. I had it earlier. I do not see it at the present moment. Where did I put it? Anyway, all right, so let's add some blood, right? I want to give this a little powder. Again, just because you did use a cream, and kind of want to take that back down to a minimal shine. And I think you'll realize too, it really helps actually make the colors a lot more natural. All right, so let's add some blood, right? And you could keep going with this. You could put bruising around here, and we kind of want to make this a fresh one, right? So again, we can make that, you can make that as deep as you want. If you want to make it look deeper, you can add a darker color, right? Okay, so let's get some blood. Okay. Now, use as little or as lot as you want, right? We're gonna just put some blood into here. Don't cover the whole wound. Like, that's a lot of blood for, you know, most people, you spend this time working on this, right? And you don't want to cover everything. But this would be a wound that would probably drip here. So let's do this. Oh yeah, I guess warning, graphic imagery. Don't look if you get weirded out by blood. All right, let's wiggle our hand a little bit so it drips down. And you know, if you touch this, you probably would touch this if you had a wound. Okay. Now, this is another drawback to wax. See how that's starting to bead up on the wax? A really good trick to make things not bead up on the wax, because it will, along with the sealer, you'll find that it does start to bead up on things, right? put a little dish soap. Now, this makes it so that it's not edible, okay? And not all blood is. But it will take that beading away. But here we go. We have a really nice wound that you've created with some wax. And what fun, you know? So this can be very, very useful for photo shoots. You know, you can wear this to a haunt. Let's get a, you know, you might wipe this. All right. You know. So, you know, you're going to be wiping things. You're going to have, now be careful with the wax, because I'm going to show you this. Although it's fun, you can create some wounds like this. And this is sealed. Right? So, again, it's something you have to kind of baby. But you can create some really cool things. Now, the cool thing about this is that wax, even though we sealed it, you can look at that. Let's put some of that blood in there. So hey, and that's it without makeup, but you redid it. And it looks very fleshy.